Hi, welcome to another video. So, Zhipu just released GLM-5.3 Flash, and it turns out that this is the mystery aux alpha model that everyone was testing anonymously on OpenRouter and OpenCode for the past few weeks. It's now official. The weights are up on Hugging Face, it's MIT licensed, and Zhipu says it beats GLM-5.2 across benchmarks at about 1/10 the price, while approaching Claude Opus level coding and agentic performance. Take the benchmarks with a grain of salt as always, but from the preliminary reports, this model is really good. Now, whenever an open weights model drops, everyone asks the same question: can I run this thing at home? So in this video, let's talk about what you actually need to run GLM-5.3 Flash locally, what the true minimum spend looks like, and then compare all of that against just paying for a subscription. Because honestly, one of these options is going to embarrass the other, so let's get right into it. First, let's talk about the model itself. GLM-5.3 Flash is a mixture of experts model, with 320 billion total parameters, but only 18 billion active per token. That's the magic number to remember here. 320 total, 18 active. It's also the first natively multimodal model in the GLM-5 series, so it can handle text, images, video, and visual documents. It has around a 1 million token context window, and they've also cut the KV cache size by about 4.4 times compared to the bigger GLM-5.3 model, which really helps when you're trying to fit long contexts into limited memory. Now, the MOE design is the only reason local inference is even possible here. Your machine needs to hold all 320 billion parameters in memory, but it only computes with 18 billion per token. So the whole game is about memory capacity, not raw compute. If you can fit it, you can probably run it at a usable speed. So, how much memory does fitting it actually take? The full precision weights are around 640 gigs, and nobody is running that at home. This is where quantization comes in. Quick note here, the model literally dropped today, so the GGUF files are still uploading, and these numbers are close estimates that might shift by a few gigs. The Q8 quant, which is basically lossless, is around 340 gigs. Forget about that one. The Q4 KM quant, which is the sweet spot that everyone actually uses, is roughly 190 gigs. The IQ3 quant is around 145 gigs. The IQ2M quant, which the dynamic quantization methods make surprisingly usable on big MOE models, is roughly 110 gigs. And an aggressive 2-bit dynamic quant should land somewhere around 80 gigs. So, the practical entry ticket is about 96 to 128 gigs of combined RAM plus VRAM for the low-bit quants, and around 200 plus gigs if you want to run Q4 properly. And because it's MOE, Llama CPP lets you park the expert layers in ordinary system RAM and keep the shared layers and KV cache on a GPU. You just use the --n CPU MOE flag. With only 18 billion active parameters, that hybrid setup is genuinely usable. And this is exactly how the budget builds work. Now, before I show you the builds, there's a plot twist, and it's ugly. 2026 is literally the worst year in history to buy memory. RAM prices have climbed around 500% in 12 months because AI data centers are eating the entire DRAM supply. Tom's Hardware tracked premium 128 gig DDR5 kits at $3,399, $3,000. For RAM, even a value 2x64 DDR5 kit costs you around $1,000 right now, and used RTX 3090s, which used to be the classic $600 bargain, are now hovering around $1,000 too. So, every cheap AI server build video from 2024 is now basically fiction. But there is one loophole left, and it's the basis of our minimum spend build. So, here are your 3 realistic paths, cheapest first. The first path is the DDR4 loophole at roughly $800 to $1,200. Old server and workstation DDR4 is the one kind of memory the AI boom hasn't fully devoured yet. Used 128 gig DDR4 ECC kits still start around $200 to $300, and a used Xeon or Epwise workstation that takes them costs around $400 to $600. Add a cheap used RTX 3060 with 12 gigs for around $200 to handle the shared layers and prompt processing. Run the 2-bit quant with MOE offloading, and you're in the game for around $1,000. Expect maybe 5 to 10 tokens per second. It's not fast, but it's a 320 billion parameter model running in your house for $1,000, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. The second path is a unified memory box at roughly $2,500 to $3,400. This is a Strix Halo mini PC, so a Ryzen AI Max plus 395 with 128 gigs of unified memory from Framework, GMK Tech, B-Link, Bosgame, and others. There were deals as low as around $1,500 earlier this year, but after the RAM spike, most 128 gig configs sit near $2,800 to $3,400. That 128 gigs fits the 2-bit quant with room for context. It sips power, and you should get somewhere in the 10 to 20 tokens per second range. This is the tidy, quiet, plug-and-play option. The third path is the comfortable one, at $3,700 to $5,600, a Mac Studio. The M4 Max with 128 gigs is around $3,700 and has double the memory bandwidth of Strix Halo, so it's noticeably faster on the same quant. And if you want to run the proper Q4 quant, the one that needs around 200 gigs, you're looking at an M3 Ultra with 256 gigs of unified memory, which is in the mid-5,000s. For reference, NVIDIA's DGX Spark at $4,700 gets you the CUDA ecosystem, but only 128 gigs, and less bandwidth than the Mac. So if you ask me, the Mac is the better buy here. So the true minimum spend, if you own literally nothing, is about $1,000 using the DDR4 loophole. The comfortable answer is $3,000 to $5,500. Oh, and add electricity on top. A DIY rig doing inference all day realistically adds $10 to $25 a month, depending on your rates. The mini PCs are more like $3 to $8. Anyway, now let's come to the uncomfortable part of the video. Here's what not running it locally costs. The GLM API is priced at 15 cents per million input tokens, 50 cents per million output tokens, and cached input is just 3 cents. That is absurdly cheap. A heavy day of agentic coding, say 20 million, mostly cached input tokens and a million output tokens, is well under $1. $1 a day for heavy use, pay as you go, no hardware. I mean, their API is just extremely cheap. Then there's the GLM coding plan. The light plan is $18 a month, or about $12.60 a month if you pay yearly, and gives you roughly 80 prompts per 5-hour window in tools like Claude Code, Klein, and RuCode. Pro is $72 and Max is $160. And for context, the Western competition, Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus are both $20 a month. The 5X tiers are around $100, and the 20X tiers are $200. So GLM Lite undercuts Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus while serving a model family that's genuinely competitive at coding, which is pretty good for sure. Now, let's make the comparison brutal and simple. Take GLM coding plan Lite at the annual rate, so around $13 a month. The $1,000 DDR4 loophole build equals about 6.5 years of Lite. The $3,300 Strix Halo box, over 20 years. The 256 gig Mac Studio, 35 plus years. That's longer than some of you have been alive. And that's before electricity, before the time you spend tinkering. And while the subscription serves you the full fat model at data center speed instead of a 2-bit quant at 8 tokens per second. So, on pure economics, this is not even a fight. The subscription wins, the API wins even harder for light users, and local basically never breaks even before the hardware is obsolete. So why would anyone run it locally? Well, 3 reasons, and they're the same 3 as always, but they're real. First, privacy. Your code and data never leave your machine, and that's not a feature any subscription can sell you. Second, control. It's MIT licensed. They're your weights. There are no rate limits, no quota windows, no model getting nerfed or rug pulled under you, and it works on a plane. And third, honestly, because it's awesome. A 320 billion parameter multimodal model answering on hardware you own was science fiction 2 years ago. So here's my actual recommendation. If you're asking which option is cheaper, just subscribe, Lite at $18, or use the API for pennies. If you already own 128 gigs of anything, download the 2-bit quant tonight because it's free to try, and only buy hardware if privacy or ownership is the actual point. Because in 2026, with RAM up 500%, you're buying sovereignty, not savings. Overall, this release is pretty amazing, to be honest. Please share your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye.